Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you my process behind this cute little mushroom painting I did. I am using some watercolor pencils, and wherever there's going to be some shadows, I'm using a blue watercolor pencil, and wherever I plan on there being direct light in the painting, I'm using orange or red. When we add the local colors, which means just like the color the object is. So for instance, this mushroom is going to be the color red. When we layer that color on top of the undertones, it'll mix in with all the layers and it will give more dimension to the painting. After blending out the watercolor pencils with some water, I just go in with thin layers of gouache on top of that, putting in, as I mentioned earlier, the local color of all the objects in the painting. Throughout the whole painting, I switch back and forth between gouache and placing more undertones with the watercolor pencils. Right now, this is just like the foundation. I'm just kind of blocking out everything, the overall colors and undertones. And as I move forward with the painting, the more detailed I get with like maybe the undertone from, for instance, maybe the undertone from the stem of the mushroom goes from blue to like green. As I go on with the painting, I kind of adjust that in layers. I really hope that makes sense, but that's how I move throughout all my gouache paintings. I go between watercolor pencils and gouache, and as I go along, just kind of adjust the colors with watercolor pencils the slightest bit, just to give an iridescent color shift. At this point in the painting, I'm also blacking out the background because I just wanted a black background. That's what I like to paint, so I just went in really thick with black gouache paint. I also put tape down because the background is very geometric and I am not about to freehand a straight line. Like, I'm just not gonna do that. after all that, I am using black to really push the shadows in this painting. Something that is just a little bit controversial in the art community. Not really controversial, it's just there's a thing going around saying not to use black to shade your paintings, and I think that is like mostly true. What happens is if you don't use any other colors within the shadows, it's just gonna turn to gray. It's gonna really gray out the painting, especially if you're doing skin tone. It's not gonna work. It's gonna, you know, when you look at the shadows, especially on skin, there's a lot of light reflecting back color. Even in shadows, there's color. And usually with shadows, they end up being a cooler tone of whatever color that object is. That's why I use the cool toned watercolor pencils. Because I'm doing things in layers, that black that I'm using is going to mix in with all the other colors I already established for the undertones. Does that make sense? With oil painting, you typically pre-mix your colors, and that's usually what people are talking about, is when you're using oil paint or just in general using that method of painting where you pre-mix your colors and put it on the canvas and blend together. Yeah, you obviously don't want to just go in with black, but because of how I'm painting here, you tend to have those colors separated in a way, because we already put the undertone colors and then you put black on top. It's going to mix in and make a new color. So essentially, you're mixing and creating the colors as you paint, which sounds complicated, but it's my preferred way of painting. I don't know. That's a whole other video though that I can talk about. The benefits of both types of techniques or whatever. Side note, these white spots on the mushroom, what I did to make them really look 3D is I got a black watercolor pencil, placed that directly underneath the white spots where the shadows would be, and I got my paintbrush that has a really fine tip at the end and kind of blended that together, and it produced a mid-tone shadow. And then I just reapplied the black watercolor pencil underneath where the shadow would be, like the really harsh shadow would be. And as the spots go down the side of the mushroom, the shadows get longer because there's more shade there. And then as it goes towards the top, I reduced the amount of mid-tone and really dark shadows there are. And that really gave it the illusion that it's like a domed mushroom. Oh my god. Okay, this was my favorite part. You guys know I love painting and drawing eyeballs. Love, 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 love. Okay, so I zoomed in to show you guys how I did this. I basically just started, just with the very basic color it is and the lighting with how it hit the eyeball. It made the side of the iris on the right side, the way I was looking at it, lighter than the left side. So I wanted to replicate that by putting a lighter green on the right side and a darker, like blue foresty green on the left side. And because the iris has so many fibers and little details and strands inside of them, I used a lot of the watercolor pencil and tried my best with a really fine tip of the brush, uh, just carefully blended that because I really wanted that texture to be there still, but I didn't want it to look grainy from just drawing on watercolor paper with a pencil. So yeah, I also used orange watercolor pencils for the highlights because it was kind of a hazily iris, and hazel eyes and brown eyes, when they hit the sunlight, reflect back orange at the highest points of the highlights in the eyes. So yeah, I also did my trick here that I love doing where I put the highlight partially over the pupil. It just gives you an extra illusion of depth, that there's like a dome around the eye and it's not just like a flat highlight, because typically if you see a highlight over an eye, you can still see a little bit of whatever color is underneath. So because the iris is lighter than the really dark black pupil in the center, you're going to see that color shift in the highlight. I feel like I said that way too complicated. I think you guys get it though. Okay, really quick tip for spider webs. If you just get whatever brush you have, I use this one that appears really fat, but the tip at the very end is very fine. That's why I'm using it. Just get your brush, dip it in some white paint, and create spider web strokes. They don't have to look perfect because what you're going to do later is get the background color. In this case, I used flat black, so this was very easy. And I just tapped the edges with my brush using the black paint from the background to kind of shave away the excess of the white strands in the spider webs. And doing this, I was able to get really thin, detailed spider web strands. You're welcome. of course, I cannot forget this little moth I included in the painting. I just did a basic yellow layer, like kind of a dark burnt yellow for his wings, and I used a lot of brown and orange watercolor pencils to create the, how would you call it? The creases in its wings, some of the detailed patterns in it. And then I was like, I need finer detail, so I used a really thin ink pen. And yeah, I just used that. And it worked. So yeah, cool. I also put shadows underneath the bugs and the mushroom that's like hanging outside of the diamond shape, just to give like the illusion of like breaking the fourth wall or something. I don't know. I thought it looked cool. And that is the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!